The morning sun cast long shadows across Washington, D.C. as Elon Musk's electric blue Tesla pulled up to the curb. He checked his watch, 8:45 a.m. The meeting wasn't until 9, but Elon had always believed that being early showed respect. He took a deep breath and looked up at the imposing building that housed the Secret Service headquarters. Just another meeting, he told himself, though deep down he knew that wasn't true. Elon straightened his dark blazer over his plain t-shirt. He'd debated wearing something more formal but decided against it. He was most comfortable and most himself this way. Besides, he wasn't here to impress anyone with his clothes. As he stepped from the car, a cool autumn breeze rustled the nearby trees, sending a shower of orange and red leaves dancing across the sidewalk. Two agents stood at attention near the entrance, their expressions unreadable behind dark sunglasses. "Mr. Musk." One of them nodded, checking his name against a clipboard. "You're early." "Better early than late," Elon replied with a slight smile. The agent didn't return the smile. "We'll need to check your phone and any other electronic devices." Elon handed over his phone and the small tablet he'd brought. He watched carefully as they placed the devices in a secure box. Government security procedures had always fascinated him, a complex dance of protocols designed to protect the nation's most sensitive information. "This way, sir," the second agent said, gesturing toward the entrance. The heavy glass doors slid open silently, revealing a lobby that looked nothing like what Elon had expected. Instead of the ultra-modern high-tech space he'd imagined, the interior was surprisingly ordinary. Beige walls, standard government-issue furniture, fluorescent lighting that gave everything a slightly washed-out appearance. Elon's eyes darted around, taking in every detail. The security cameras were visible, not hidden as he might have expected. The computer at the reception desk looked like it belonged in a museum, rather than at the headquarters of one of the most important security agencies in the world. "I'll need your ID, sir," the receptionist said, barely looking up from her computer. Elon handed over his driver's license, watching as she typed his information into what appeared to be an outdated system. The keyboard clicked loudly with each keystroke. "Everything all right?" he asked, noticing her frown. "Just slow today," she replied, tapping the side of her monitor with mild frustration. "These computers, well, you know how government budgets are." Elon nodded, but his mind was already racing. In his companies, using outdated technology wasn't just inefficient, it was a security risk. And this wasn't just any government office. This was the Secret Service. A tall man in a perfectly pressed suit approached, hand extended. "Mr. Musk, I'm Agent Rodriguez. Thank you for coming in today." Elon shook his hand firmly. "Thanks for having me, though I'm still not entirely clear on why I'm here." Agent Rodriguez's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. "Just a routine security briefing. With your companies working on several government contracts, it's standard procedure." As they walked down a long hallway, Elon noticed more details that seemed out of place. The building's Wi-Fi router, visible through an open utility closet, was a commercial model, not the secure, custom hardware he would have expected. The security keycards employees used at various checkpoints appeared to be simple magnetic stripe technology rather than more secure RFID or biometric systems. "You seem interested in our setup," Agent Rodriguez commented, noticing Elon's wandering gaze. "Just curious by nature," Elon replied casually. Hard to turn off the engineer's brain. They passed through 3 more security checkpoints, each one using technology that made Elon increasingly uneasy. At one station, he watched an agent type a password in plain view of anyone walking by. A basic security mistake no company of his would tolerate. "How long have you been with the service?" Elon asked, trying to sound conversational rather than concerned. 23 years, Rodriguez replied with pride. "Started right out of college. Things have changed a lot since then." "I imagine they have," Elon said, wondering silently just how much had actually changed in this building. They arrived at a conference room where 4 other agents were waiting. The room was windowless, with a large table in the center surrounded by office chairs. That had seen better days. A projector hummed on the ceiling, displaying a generic government seal on the wall. "Everyone, this is Elon Musk," Rodriguez announced. "Mr. Musk, these are Agents Chen, Patel, Wilson, and Director Thompson." Elon shook hands with each of them, paying special attention to Director Thompson, a stern-looking woman with sharp eyes and silver-streaked hair pulled back in a tight bun. "Please have a seat," she said, gesturing to an empty chair. "We appreciate you making time for this meeting." As Elon sat down, he noticed the laptop connected to the projector. It was running an operating system that hadn't been updated in at least 5 years, one with known security vulnerabilities that hackers had exploited countless times. "Before we begin," Director Thompson continued, "I want to emphasize that everything discussed today is classified. You've signed the necessary non-disclosure agreements, correct?" Elon nodded. "Yes, all signed and submitted last week." "Excellent. Agent Chen will begin the briefing." Agent Chen, a younger man with a serious expression, stood and clicked to the first slide of his presentation. The projector stuttered, the image freezing momentarily before continuing. "Sorry about that," Chen said with a slight frown. "These machines aren't exactly cutting edge." "Government budget constraints," Agent Wilson added with a dry laugh. "We make do with what we have." Elon forced a smile, but the comment only deepened his concern. Making do with outdated technology might be acceptable for some government departments, but not for an agency responsible for protecting the president and investigating financial crimes. As Chen began his presentation about security protocols, for government contractors, Elon found his attention divided. He listened to the information being presented while simultaneously cataloging every piece of outdated or vulnerable technology he could spot in the room. The presentation computer, the phones on the table, even the digital thermostat on the wall appeared to be running basic software that likely hadn't been updated in years. "Mr. Musk, did you hear the question?" Director Thompson's voice broke through his thoughts. "I'm sorry," Elon said, straightening in his chair. "Could you repeat that?" "I asked if your companies have implemented the new security protocols outlined in Section 7 of the contract." "Yes, we implemented those immediately," Elon replied. "In fact, we've gone beyond those requirements. Our security team felt the baseline standards were insufficient." A brief silence fell over the room. "Insufficient?" Agent Patel repeated, speaking for the first time. "Those protocols were developed by our top security experts." Elon hesitated, weighing his words carefully. He hadn't come here to antagonize anyone, but what he was seeing throughout the building was too concerning to ignore. "The protocols themselves are solid," he said diplomatically, "but technology evolves quickly. What was secure last year might not be secure today." Director Thompson leaned forward slightly. "You sound concerned, Mr. Musk." Elon met her gaze directly. "To be honest, I am." "About?" He glanced around the room at the agents watching him with varying expressions of curiosity and suspicion. He thought about the outdated systems he'd seen throughout the building, the lax security practices, the hardware that belonged in a computer history museum rather than a critical government agency. "May I speak frankly?" he asked. Director Thompson nodded. "Please do." Elon took a deep breath. This wasn't how he'd planned to spend his morning, but he couldn't in good conscience stay silent. What he'd seen in just the 30 minutes since entering the building went beyond inefficiency. It was a potential national security risk. "Since I arrived here," he began, choosing his words carefully, "I've noticed several things that, from a technology and security perspective, are concerning." The room grew very quiet. Agent Rodriguez shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "What kind of things?" Director Thompson asked, her voice neutral but her eyes intense. Elon hesitated one final moment. What he was about to say could either be dismissed entirely or could spark a much-needed change. Either way, he knew he had to say it. "Your systems," he said finally, "the technology throughout this building. From what I've seen so far, much of it is severely outdated. And in today's world, outdated means vulnerable." No one spoke for several seconds. Then Director Thompson did something unexpected. She smiled. I was wondering how long it would take you to bring that up, she said, closing her folder. That's actually why you're here today, Mr. Musk. Though we hadn't planned to get to this part of the conversation quite so soon. Elon's brow furrowed in confusion. I don't understand. Director Thompson looked at the other agents, then back to Elon. What you've seen today, she said carefully, is exactly what we wanted you to see. And your reaction is exactly what we hoped for. Elon felt a strange mix of relief and new confusion washing over him. Nothing about this meeting was turning out as expected. I think, Director Thompson continued, standing up, it's time we showed you what's really going on here. Director Thompson led Elon through a door at the back of the conference room that he hadn't noticed before. It opened to reveal a narrow hallway with bright white walls. What you've seen so far is what we call our front stage, she explained, as they walked. It's deliberately outdated. Elon raised an eyebrow. You're maintaining outdated technology on purpose? Perception management, Agent Rodriguez said from behind them. The front areas of our building, the parts visitors, contractors, and even some government officials see, are designed to give a specific impression. An impression of incompetence? Elon asked, genuinely confused. Director Thompson smiled slightly. An impression of limited capabilities. In our line of work, being underestimated can be an advantage. They reached the end of the hallway where a sleek metal door stood. Unlike the outdated keycard readers Elon had seen earlier, this one featured an advanced biometric scanner. Director Thompson placed her palm on the scanner, looked into a small camera for retinal verification, and spoke her name clearly. Director Catherine Thompson, authorization Bravo 9 Delta. The door slid open silently, revealing a space that looked nothing like the areas Elon had seen so far. Welcome to the real Secret Service headquarters, Mr. Musk, Director Thompson said, gesturing for him to enter. Elon stepped through the doorway and stopped in his tracks. The room before him was vast, at least 3 stories high with multiple levels visible through glass floors and ceilings. Workstations with cutting edge. Computers lined the walls. Massive digital displays showed maps, data streams, and security feeds from around the world. The lighting was perfect, bright but not harsh, clearly designed for long hours of focused work. This is unexpected, Elon said, taking it all in. That's the point, Agent Chen replied with a hint of pride. What you saw out there is what we want potential adversaries to think we're working with. This is what we actually use. As they walked further into the room, Elon noticed details that impressed even him. The cooling systems for the computer banks were nearly silent but clearly highly efficient. The ergonomics of the workstations showed careful thought about human factors and long-term use. Is that a quantum processing array? He asked, pointing to a glass-enclosed section where engineers in white coats were working on what appeared to be experimental hardware. One of several, Director Thompson confirmed. Still in development, but showing promise for our encryption needs. A young woman approached them, carrying what looked like a tablet, though thinner than any Elon had seen on the market. Director, the analysis you requested is complete, she said, handing over the device. Thank you, Dr. Rivera, Thompson replied, quickly scanning the information. Mr. Musk, this is Dr. Rivera, head of our Advanced Technology Division. Dr. Rivera shook Elon's hand firmly. It's an honor to meet you, Mr. Musk. Your work has influenced some of our projects here. I'd be interested to know which ones, Elon replied, genuinely curious. Perhaps later, Director Thompson interjected. We have limited time, and there's something specific we need to show you. They continued through the main room, passing dozens of agents and technicians working at various stations. Elon noticed that unlike the front area of the building, everyone here moved with purpose and efficiency. There was none of the bureaucratic slowness he associated with government operations. Through here, Rodriguez directed, leading them toward another doorway. This room was smaller, with a round table in the center surrounded by comfortable chairs. One wall was entirely covered by a high-definition screen, currently showing what appeared to be a complex network diagram. Please sit down, Director Thompson said, taking a seat herself. Once everyone was seated, she placed a small device in the center of the table, It projected a holographic display that hovered in the air between them. "What I'm about to share with you is classified at the highest level," she began. "The reason we brought you here today goes far beyond a routine security briefing." The hologram shifted to show what appeared to be a complex code structure. "For the past 18 months, we've been tracking an unprecedented cyber threat," Thompson continued. "It began with subtle probes of government systems, but has evolved into something far more sophisticated." Agent Patel leaned forward. "We believe it's a coordinated effort by multiple state and non-state actors working together, something we've never seen before at this scale." The hologram changed again, showing a map with lines connecting various points around the globe. "These are the attack vectors we've identified," Patel explained. "The pattern suggests a level of coordination that should be impossible given the different goals and ideologies of the groups involved." Elon studied the display carefully. "What systems have they targeted?" "That's the concerning part," Director Thompson said. "They're not going after the obvious targets like missile defense or power grids. They're focusing on communication infrastructure, satellite systems, and transportation networks. They're trying to build a kill switch for modern society," Rodriguez added. "Take down the right combination of systems simultaneously, and you could effectively paralyze a country without firing a single shot." Elon nodded slowly, understanding the implications. "And what does this have to do with me?" Director Thompson exchanged glances with the others before responding. "Several of your companies operate in the exact spaces being targeted: space-based communications, advanced transportation, energy systems. You've built some of the most innovative technology in these sectors, but also some of the most secure. We need your help," she continued frankly. "Not just your technical expertise, but your way of thinking. You see vulnerabilities and opportunities others miss, like how quickly you spotted the outdated technology upstairs." "Which was a test," Elon stated rather than asked. "Yes," Thompson confirmed. "We needed to see how you'd react to apparent vulnerabilities, whether you'd notice them, ignore them, or exploit them." "And if I had tried to exploit them?" Elon asked. Agent Chen smiled slightly. "The systems upstairs are real but isolated. Any attempt to access them would have been detected instantly. They're honeypots, traps for people trying to breach our security." Elon leaned back in his chair, processing everything he'd heard. "So the real reason I'm here is because you want my help fighting an unprecedented cyber threat targeting critical infrastructure, including systems my companies have built." "Precisely," Director Thompson nodded. "We need someone who understands these systems at the deepest level but thinks differently than our analysts." The holographic display shifted again, showing what appeared to be lines of code. "This was embedded in an attack that targeted one of your company's systems 3 weeks ago," Agent Patel explained. "Your security team blocked it effectively, but we don't think they recognized its full significance." Elon leaned forward, studying the code. After a moment, his eyes widened slightly. "This isn't just trying to breach our systems," he said slowly. "It's trying to map them, to understand how our security works so it can be replicated elsewhere." "Exactly," Thompson said. "They're not just attacking, they're learning, using each attempt to gather intelligence for future operations." "We believe they're working toward something big," Rodriguez added. "Something coordinated across multiple systems simultaneously." Elon was quiet for a moment, his mind racing through the implications. The scale of what they were describing went beyond normal cyber threats. This wasn't just about data theft or service disruption. This was about fundamental vulnerabilities in the systems modern society depended on. "Why keep all this hidden?" he finally asked. "The front stage, as you called it. Why maintain the illusion of outdated systems?" "Operational security," Thompson replied. "If our adversaries believe we're working with outdated technology, they'll underestimate our capabilities. They'll make mistakes, get sloppy. And in cybersecurity, one mistake is all you need." Elon finished the thought. He stood up and walked to the wall display, studying the network diagram more closely. "These attack patterns," he said, pointing to a cluster of connections. "They remind me of something we saw in our systems last year. We thought it was an isolated incident." The agents exchanged glances. It wasn't isolated, Chen confirmed. Similar patterns have appeared across dozens of critical systems, always slightly different, always evolving, but with the same underlying architecture. Elon turned back to face the group. What exactly are you asking me to do? Director Thompson stood and joined him by the display. We need you to help us identify vulnerabilities they might exploit across the industries you know best. We need your perspective on how these different systems might interact in ways we haven't considered. And we need your help designing countermeasures that work across multiple platforms. This isn't just about defending individual systems anymore, she continued. It's about understanding how they work together, the connections between them that might create unexpected vulnerabilities. Elon nodded slowly. No one builds walls around cities anymore. Modern security isn't about stronger barriers, it's about smarter networks. Exactly, Thompson said with approval. That's exactly the kind of thinking we need. She returned to the table and pressed a button, causing the holographic display to disappear. So, Mr. Musk, she said, looking at him directly. Will you help us? Elon looked around the room at the agents watching him expectantly, then back at the complex network diagram on the wall display. What they were describing wasn't just a technical challenge. It was a fundamental threat to the infrastructure he had helped build. Systems designed to connect people to improve lives were being targeted by those who wanted to use those connections as weapons. I'll help, he said finally, but I need something from you first. What's that? Thompson asked. Show me everything, Elon replied. Every attack vector, every piece of code you've intercepted, every system that's been targeted. I can't help if I don't see the complete picture. Director Thompson nodded. We can do that, but there's something else you should see first. Something we discovered just yesterday. She gestured to Agent Rodriguez, who tapped a command into his tablet. The wall display changed, showing what appeared to be a schematic diagram. Elon's expression changed as he recognized what he was looking at. That's impossible, he said quietly. Those are internal designs. They've never been made public. We know, Thompson replied grimly. That's why we need your help more than ever. Elon stared at the schematic on the screen, a cold feeling spreading through his chest. The design showed the internal architecture of a neural interface his company had been developing in absolute secrecy. Only 5 people in the world should have had access to those designs. How did you get this? He asked, his voice tight. We didn't find it, Director Thompson replied. We intercepted it. It was being transmitted to an unknown server in Eastern Europe last night. Elon ran a hand through his hair, trying to process what he was seeing. That's not possible. These designs are kept on an air-gapped system. No external connections whatsoever. Agent Chen stepped forward. That's what makes this situation so concerning. The attackers are finding ways around air-gapped systems. Show me everything, Elon said, his earlier hesitation gone. Every attack, every system breach, every piece of code you've intercepted. I need to see the full picture. Director Thompson nodded to Dr. Rivera, who began typing rapidly on her tablet. The large wall screen divided into multiple panels, each showing different data. These are the attacks we've confirmed over the past 8 months, Dr. Rivera explained. Power grid systems in Texas, communication networks in California, satellite control systems in Colorado, and transportation infrastructure across multiple states. Elon moved closer to the screen, his eyes darting from panel to panel. They're not random targets, he said after a moment. They're all connection points, systems that link to multiple other systems. We reached the same conclusion, Agent Patel said. They're looking for the nodes with the most connections. Not just connections, Elon corrected, pointing to specific points on the display. Look at these systems specifically. They're testing different types of security protocols, learning how each one responds. He turned to face the group. This isn't multiple attacks. It's one coordinated effort to map the entire infrastructure network of the country. They're creating a comprehensive vulnerability map. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. If someone had that kind of map, Agent Rodriguez began, they could plan a synchronized attack across multiple critical systems, Elon finished. Taking down enough key nodes simultaneously would create a cascading failure. The entire infrastructure network could collapse within hours. Director Thompson's expression remained calm, but her eyes betrayed her concern. That's why we needed you here. Your companies use security protocols unlike anyone else's. You think differently about system architecture. We need that perspective. Elon nodded, his mind already racing through possibilities. I need a workstation, he said, and I need to bring in a few of my people. People I trust completely. That can be arranged, Thompson replied. But first, there's one more thing you need to see. She nodded to Dr. Rivera, who tapped her tablet again. The display changed to show what appeared to be a timeline of attacks, with clusters of activity highlighted at certain points. We've been analyzing the pattern of these probes and attacks, Dr. Rivera explained. They're not constant. They come in waves with specific timing between them. Elon studied the timeline. They're testing responses, he said, measuring how long it takes for systems to detect the intrusion and respond. Exactly, Dr. Rivera confirmed. But there's something else. She zoomed in on the most recent section of the timeline. The frequency is increasing. Based on the pattern, we believe they're building towards something big and soon. How soon? Elon asked. Our analysts estimate 2 weeks, possibly less, Director Thompson said gravely. Elon took a deep breath. 2 weeks to prevent a nationwide infrastructure collapse. No pressure. Agent Chen smiled slightly despite the tension. We thought you liked impossible deadlines, Mr. Musk. I said impossible deadlines, Elon corrected. Different thing entirely. He walked slowly around the table, thinking. I'll need access to data on all the attacks, not just the ones targeting my company's systems. And I'll need to bring in at least 3 people from my security team. We can arrange secure transport for them today, Rodriguez offered. Good. Elon nodded. Now show me where I'll be working. Director Thompson led him through another doorway into what appeared to be a specialized lab. Advanced computer systems lined the walls, and a large workstation dominated the center of the room. This will be your space while you're working with us, she explained. Completely secure with access to all our data. Your clearance has already been upgraded to allow you to see everything related to this threat. Elon walked around the room, examining the equipment. This is impressive, he admitted. Far better than what you've got in your front stage. That's the idea, Thompson smiled. Keep expectations low, capabilities high. Elon sat down at the main workstation and began familiarizing himself with the system. His fingers flew across the keyboard as he navigated through the interface. Your system architecture is unusual, he commented. Military? A custom design, Dr. Rivera explained, joining them in the lab. Based on military protocols but significantly modified. I led the team that built it. Elon nodded appreciatively. Good work, it's elegant. Dr. Rivera seemed pleased by the compliment. Coming from you, that means something. As Elon continued exploring the system, Director Thompson received a message on her secure phone. Her expression tightened slightly as she read it. Problem? Elon asked, noticing the change. Potentially, she replied. We're detecting new probing attempts against several Eastern power grid nodes. Different pattern than before, more aggressive. Let me see, Elon said, turning to the main screen. Dr. Rivera quickly brought up the data. Lines of code scrolled across the display as the attack unfolded in real time. This isn't a probe, Elon said after studying it for a moment. This is different. They're not just mapping the system, they're trying to establish a persistent presence. He typed rapidly, digging deeper into the code. They're installing backdoors, small, nearly undetectable changes to the control systems that would allow them to regain access even if the initial breach is discovered. Can you block it? Rodriguez asked. Not directly, Elon replied, still typing. But I can trace it, follow their path back to the source. The room grew quiet as Elon worked, the only sound the clicking of keys and the soft hum of the equipment. Minutes stretched into a tense half-hour as he followed the digital trail. They're good, he muttered, routing through multiple proxy servers, bouncing signals across different countries. Can you get through it? Director Thompson asked. I already have, Elon replied, surprising them. But what I'm finding doesn't make sense. He pointed to the screen, where a map now showed the apparent source of the attack. According to this trace, the attack is coming from inside the United States, a server farm in Nevada. Agent Patel frowned. That can't be right. Our intelligence clearly points to foreign actors. The signal is being routed through that location, Elon insisted. Whether it originates there or is just passing through, that server farm is part of the attack infrastructure. Director Thompson made a quick decision. Rodriguez, get a team to that location immediately. Full tactical response, but keep it quiet. We don't want to tip our hand. Rodriguez nodded and left the room to make the arrangements. What else can you tell us about this attack? Thompson asked, turning back to Elon. It's sophisticated, but there's something odd about it, he replied, still studying the code. Parts of it are incredibly advanced, beyond anything I've seen before, but other parts are, I don't know, almost clumsy by comparison, like it was created by two entirely different groups. Or designed to look that way, Dr. Rivera suggested. Elon looked up at her. That's exactly what I was thinking. They want us to focus on the obvious parts while missing the subtle changes being made in the background. He turned back to the screen and continued working, his expression intense with concentration. After several more minutes, he sat back suddenly. I found something. A pattern in the code that matches the intrusion attempt against my company's systems. It's the same attacker. He brought up both code samples side by side on the screen. Look at this signature. It's identical. Whoever tried to steal my company's neural interface designs is the same entity attacking the power grid right now. Director Thompson studied the screen. Can you stop the current attack? Already did. Elon replied. I inserted a countermeasure that should keep them out of that system, but that's just treating a symptom. We need to find the source. The team heading to Nevada will hopefully give us more information, Thompson said. Elon shook his head. We can't wait. They'll know we're onto them as soon as they hit my countermeasure. We need to move faster. He stood up and began pacing the room, thinking out loud. The attacks, the probes, the increasing frequency. They're building towards something specific, and now they're setting up backdoors in critical systems. He stopped suddenly. What's the most important upcoming event in the national calendar? Something that would involve multiple agencies, critical infrastructure, heightened security. The agents exchanged glances. The president is giving a major address to a joint session of Congress next week, Agent Chen said. Full security protocol, all agencies involved. That's it, Elon said, his voice certain. That's their target, not just the event itself, but the concentration of security resources on that single location. It would leave other systems vulnerable. Director Thompson's phone buzzed again. She read the message and her expression grew even more serious. The team just reached the server farm in Nevada, she said. It's been abandoned. Equipment still running, but no personnel on site, and they found something else. She held up her phone to show an image that had been sent to her. What is that? Dr. Rivera asked, peering at the small screen. Evidence, Director Thompson replied grimly. Evidence that this goes much deeper than we thought. Elon took the phone and studied the image. His eyes widened. We need to move now, he said, handing the phone back. The timeline just changed. We don't have 2 weeks. How long do we have? Thompson asked. Elon looked her directly in the eyes. If I'm right about what I'm seeing here, less than 48 hours. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Elon had called in 3 of his most trusted security experts, who arrived at the Secret Service headquarters via helicopter less than 2 hours after his call. They were now set up in the lab, working alongside the government's team. Walk me through what we know so far, Elon said, standing before a large digital board where they had mapped out all the information. Lisa, his head of cybersecurity, pointed to the timeline they'd created. The attacks began 9 months ago with simple probes of various systems. Over time, they became more sophisticated, targeting increasingly critical infrastructure. The pattern suggests they're building toward a coordinated strike that would affect multiple systems simultaneously. Based on the code we've analyzed, added Raj, another member of Elon's team, they've already established backdoors in at least 17 critical systems across the country. Director Thompson joined them, looking tired but focused. We've alerted all relevant agencies without revealing the full scope of the threat. We don't know who we can trust at this point. Good call. Elon nodded. The image from Nevada changes everything. The image had shown a small device attached to the server equipment. It wasn't just any device. It was a prototype quantum communication module that Elon's company had developed for a classified government project. Only a handful of people knew about its existence. Someone with high-level clearance is involved, Thompson said, her voice low. That device was never supposed to leave secure facilities. Which means we can't trust the normal channels, Elon added. Whatever we do, we need to keep it contained to people in this room. Dr. Rivera approached with a tablet displaying new data. We've completed the analysis of the backdoors they've installed. They're dormant now, but they could be activated remotely at any time. Can we remove them? Elon asked. Not without alerting whoever placed them there, Dr. Rivera replied. They've built-in tripwires. If we try to remove them directly, it could trigger whatever they're planning. Elon paced the room, thinking. So we need to neutralize them without actually touching them. Create a containment system that would prevent them from executing their code when activated. Exactly, Dr. Rivera nodded. But that would require getting into each affected system without being detected by the back doors. I might have a way, said Michael, the third member of Elon's team. He was younger than the others, with a reputation for thinking outside conventional security paradigms. What if we don't try to access the systems directly? What if we create a shadow network that monitors the traffic without interfering? Elon stopped pacing and turned to face him. Go on. We set up passive monitoring nodes at key junction points, Michael explained, warming to his idea. They wouldn't interact with the traffic, just observe it. When the activation signal comes through, we'd detect it before it reaches the back doors. And then what? Agent Chen asked, skeptical. We'd know it's happening, but couldn't stop it. Not necessarily, Elon said, seeing where Michael was going. If we know the exact signature of the activation signal, we could create a countermeasure that would deploy automatically when that signature is detected. A digital vaccine, Dr. Rivera said, understanding dawning on her face. It wouldn't remove the back doors, but it would render them harmless when activated. Exactly. Elon nodded. We don't have time to hunt down and safely remove every backdoor they've planted, but we can prepare the systems to fight off the attack when it comes. Director Thompson considered the plan. How quickly can we implement this? If we focus on the most critical nodes first, we could have the core infrastructure protected within 24 hours, Lisa estimated. Complete coverage would take longer. We don't have longer, Elon reminded them. Whatever they're planning is linked to the president's address tomorrow night. That's our deadline. Thompson made a decision. Do it. Focus on protecting the power grid, communication networks, and transportation systems first. Those would cause the most immediate harm if compromised. The team immediately got to work, splitting into smaller groups focused on different aspects of the plan. Elon moved between them, offering insights and solving problems as they arose. Despite the pressure, there was an energy in the room that came from brilliant minds working together against a common threat. Hours passed. Team members took short breaks in rotation, but the work continued around the clock. By early morning, they had developed a prototype of the monitoring system and were beginning to deploy it to the first set of critical nodes. Elon stood by the main display, watching as the first monitoring stations came online. Green dots appeared on the map, each representing a protected node in the infrastructure network. It's working, Michael said, looking up from his workstation. The monitors are in place and transmitting data. How many nodes are covered so far? Director Thompson asked, joining them after a brief rest. 17% of the critical infrastructure, Lisa replied, including 3 major power distribution centers and 2 internet backbone nodes. Not enough, Elon said, staring at the map. We need at least 60% coverage to prevent a catastrophic cascade failure. We'll get there, Dr. Rivera assured him. The deployment is accelerating as we refine the process. Elon nodded but didn't look convinced. Something's still bothering me about all this, he said quietly. The level of access the attackers have, it doesn't make sense even with an inside person. What do you mean? Thompson asked. Look at the systems they've compromised, Elon said, bringing up the full list on a side screen. Defense networks, power grids, financial systems, transportation, infrastructure. These all have different security protocols, different oversight agencies. No single insider should have been able to help them access all of these. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. You're suggesting multiple insiders, Agent Patel said finally. A coordinated group within the government itself. It's the only explanation that fits the evidence, Elon replied grimly. Director Thompson's expression hardened. If that's true, then this goes beyond a cyber attack. This is a coordinated effort to destabilize the entire country. But why? Dr. Rivera asked. What would be the purpose? Create enough chaos and you can reshape what emerges from it, Elon said. Whoever is behind this wants to fundamentally change something about how the country operates. He turned back to the main display, studying the pattern of compromised systems. We need to keep working on the protection grid, but we also need to identify the insiders. If we don't cut off their access, they'll just find another way in, even if we block this attempt. I'll put together a small team to analyze personnel with access to the compromised systems, Thompson said. We'll look for overlaps, unusual behaviors, anything that might help identify who's involved. Be careful who you trust with that task, Elon warned. The fewer people who know what we're looking for, the better. As they spoke, an alert sounded from one of the workstations. Raj quickly moved to investigate. We've got activity, he reported. One of the monitoring nodes is picking up unusual traffic patterns. Everyone gathered around his screen, watching as data flowed in from the affected node. Is it the attack? Thompson asked tensely. No, Raj replied after a moment. It looks like they're testing the back doors, sending small signals to verify they're still in place and functioning. They're getting ready, Elon said, doing final checks before the main event. He turned to the team. How long until we reach 50% coverage with the protection system? At current deployment rates, about 8 more hours, Lisa calculated. Elon shook his head. Not fast enough. We need to prioritize even further. Focus on the nodes that would cause the most immediate and visible damage if compromised. The power grid, Dr. Rivera suggested. And communications, added Agent Chen. If both of those go down simultaneously, it would cause panic and prevent coordination of emergency responses. Exactly, Elon agreed. Protect those first, then branch out to transportation and financial systems. As the team adjusted their strategy, Director Thompson received an urgent message on her secure phone. Her expression grew even more serious as she read it. New development, she announced. The President's security detail just reported unusual activity in the communication systems at the Capitol building. Their routine security sweep found something that shouldn't be there. Let me guess, Elon said. A backdoor similar to the ones we've been tracking. Thompson nodded. They've moved the President's address to a backup location as a precaution, but haven't announced the change publicly. That's good, Elon said. It buys us some time, but it also confirms our theory about the timing. He walked back to the main display, studying the growing network of protected nodes. We're in a race now, he said quietly. They know we're onto them. They'll either accelerate their timeline or change their approach. How can you be sure? Agent Patel asked. Because it's what I would do, Elon replied simply. If my plan was at risk of being discovered, I'd have contingencies ready. Just then another alert sounded, this one more urgent than the first. Multiple workstations began showing warnings simultaneously. What's happening? Director Thompson demanded. Michael's fingers flew across his keyboard as he analyzed the incoming data. Multiple backdoors activating at once, he reported, his voice tense. They're not waiting for the president's address. They're moving now. Elon looked at the map, where red warnings were appearing faster than the green protection nodes. How many systems are protected, he asked urgently. 23%, Lisa replied. Not nearly enough. Elon made a split-second decision. We need to change strategy. We can't protect everything in time. He turned to Director Thompson. We need to trigger a controlled shutdown of the most critical systems before they can be compromised. A controlled shutdown? Thompson repeated. That would still cause significant disruption. Yes, Elon acknowledged, but far less than if these systems are actively taken over and used against us. A controlled shutdown would allow for faster recovery once the threat is neutralized. Thompson hesitated only briefly before nodding. Do it. I'll take responsibility. For the decision, she turned to Agent Rodriguez, who had just returned from coordinating with field teams. Get me a direct line to the president. This just became a national security emergency at the highest level. As Thompson left to make the call, Elon turned back to his team. Lisa, Raj, work with Dr. Rivera to identify the shutdown sequence that will minimize cascading failures. Michael, keep deploying the protection system to whatever nodes remain active. He looked around at the determined faces of the people working tirelessly to prevent disaster. Despite the dire circumstances, he felt a strange sense of pride in being part of this effort. We can still win this, he told them. Even if they force our hand and we have to shut down parts of the grid, we're denying them their objective. Sometimes the best defense is a strategic retreat. As the team sprang into action with renewed purpose, Elon knew the next few hours would determine whether they had saved the country from an unprecedented attack or merely delayed the inevitable. TU. Command Center had transformed into an organized chaos. Dozens of screens displayed the status of critical infrastructure across the country as the team implemented their controlled shutdown strategy. Outside, the first effects were already being felt. Planned power outages in selected areas, transportation systems temporarily halted, certain communication networks taken offline. Eastern power grid sections shutting down in sequence, Lisa reported, monitoring the process. No signs of cascading failures. Western transportation nodes secure, Raj added. All automated systems switched to manual control as planned. Elon moved between workstations, checking progress and offering guidance where needed. Despite the pressure, his focus remained razor-sharp. This wasn't just about preventing an attack anymore. It was about outthinking whoever was behind it. Director. Thompson returned from her call with the president, looking both grim and determined. We have full authorization for the controlled shutdown protocol. The president is being moved to a secure location, and key government functions are switching to isolated backup systems. What about public messaging? Elon asked. People will notice when the power goes out and trains stop running. The White House is releasing a statement about a technical glitch requiring temporary shutdowns for safety reasons, Thompson replied. Vague enough to prevent panic, but sufficient to explain the disruptions. Dr. Rivera approached with new data on her tablet. We've identified a pattern in the activation signals. They're originating from 5 distinct sources, all within the United States. She displayed a map showing the locations, points scattered across different states, with no obvious connection between them. That confirms our multiple insiders. Theory, Agent Chen noted. But it gives us something else too, Elon said, studying the map. A way to track them. He turned to Michael. Can you isolate the unique signature of each source? If they're continuing to send activation signals, we might be able to identify exactly who's sending them. Michael nodded. I'll work on it. The monitoring network we've established should give us enough data to create a profile for each source. As he set to work, another alert sounded, this one different from the previous warnings. New development, Raj called out. They've changed tactics. Instead of trying to activate the back doors in the systems we've shut down, they're now targeting emergency response networks. The second wave, Elon said grimly. I was afraid of this. They anticipated we might shut down the primary targets, so they prepared alternatives. Director Thompson moved quickly to a secure phone. I need to alert emergency services nationwide. If those systems are compromised, it could prevent response to any problems caused by the shutdowns. Wait, Elon said suddenly, looking at the pattern of new targets on the main display. This doesn't make sense. Why target emergency services now? The disruption from our controlled shutdowns is significant but manageable. Emergency services would only be stretched thin if something else happened. Something bigger. The room fell silent as everyone processed the implication. The cyber attack isn't the main event, Agent Patel realized. It's a distraction. Or a precursor, Elon added, designed to occupy our resources and attention while something else is being prepared. Dr. Rivera quickly pulled up data from Homeland Security and other agencies, searching for any unusual reports or warnings. There's nothing obvious in the EE alert system, she reported after a moment. Because they've compromised the alert system, Elon said. Check for anomalies, patterns that don't fit normal operations but might not trigger automatic warnings. The team worked frantically, digging through data from across multiple agencies and systems. Minutes passed in tense silence, broken only by the sound of typing and occasional murmured conversations. I've got something, Lisa said finally. Unusual shipping patterns over the past 3 weeks. Large quantities of industrial chemicals moving through multiple ports, all listed with legitimate but vague purposes. Cross-reference with known front companies associated with terrorist groups, Director Thompson instructed. Already on it, Lisa replied. No direct matches, but there are similarities in the documentation patterns to previous cases. Elon studied the shipping data. These chemicals by themselves aren't dangerous, but combined in specific ways. He didn't need to finish the thought. Everyone understood the implication. We need to locate those shipments, Thompson said, already reaching for her secure phone again. Wait, Elon said, noticing something in the data. Look at the destinations. They're all within 50 miles of major dams or water treatment facilities. He turned to face the group, his expression deadly serious. This isn't just about disrupting power or communications. They're planning to contaminate water supplies while emergency systems are compromised and unable to detect or respond to the threat. Director Thompson immediately began issuing orders. I need teams at every location on that list within the hour. Full hazmat protocols, and coordinate with local authorities for possible evacuations. As she organized the response, Michael called, out from his workstation. I've isolated the signatures of the activation signals, and I've got something else. I know how they're communicating. Everyone gathered around his screen as he explained. They're using an encrypted channel embedded within normal internet traffic, but there's a pattern to when and how they communicate. He pointed to a visualization of the data. See these spikes? They correspond exactly with the testing and activation of the back doors. Can you trace the communications back to specific individuals? Agent Chen asked. Better than that, Michael replied. I can identify their devices, and 3 of the 5 are government-issued phones or computers. Director Thompson didn't hesitate. Send me the device IDs. We'll have them located and the users detained within the hour. Elon was still studying the pattern of the signals. There's something familiar about this encryption method, he said quietly. I've seen it before. He pulled up files from his company's security systems comparing the patterns. After a moment, his expression changed from concentration to shock. This encryption protocol was developed by one of my companies 3 years ago, he said. A prototype that was never implemented because we found vulnerabilities in it. Only a handful of people ever saw the complete code. Someone from your company is involved? Thompson asked. Not likely, Elon replied. The project was scrapped, but the research was shared with a government agency as part of a contracted project. An agency that would have access to all these systems. Which agency? Director Thompson asked, though her expression suggested she already suspected the answer. The Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, Elon said. DARPA. Agent Rodriguez, who had been coordinating with field teams, looked up sharply, The director of DARPA's cybersecurity division is scheduled to be at the president's address tonight. Name? Thompson demanded. Dr. Lawrence Vega, Rodriguez replied. He's been with the agency for 12 years. Check his current location, Thompson ordered. Rodriguez made a quick call, then reported back. He left Washington this morning, supposedly heading to New York for a meeting, but his security detail lost contact with him 3 hours ago. That's our mastermind, Elon said with certainty. Someone with his access would have everything needed to coordinate this attack, knowledge of the systems, security clearances, and the technical expertise. Director Thompson was already issuing new orders. I want every available agent looking for Vega. Check all transportation hubs, security cameras, cell phone signals, everything. As the hunt for Vega intensified, the team continued working to secure the remaining vulnerable systems and track down the chemical shipments. Within hours, 3 of the 5 signal sources had been located, and the individuals responsible taken into custody. They were mid-level government employees, all of whom had been recruited by Vega under the guise of a special security project. The first chemical shipments were secured before they could be deployed, with hazmat teams confirming they were indeed components for water supply contamination. Emergency alerts were issued for areas where shipments hadn't yet been located, warning people not to use tap water until further notice. By evening, with the immediate threats contained, Elon joined Director Thompson in her office for a brief moment of respite. You know he's still out there, Elon said quietly. Vega, and we still haven't found the remaining 2 signal sources. We will, Thompson replied with conviction. Every agency in the country is looking for him now, and thanks to your team we know exactly what communication signature to look for. Elon nodded but didn't appear entirely convinced. This was too well planned to not have contingencies. We've stopped the main attack, but I doubt we've seen the last of whatever he was planning. As if on cue, Agent Rodriguez knocked and entered the office. Director, we've got a new development. One of the detained suspects has started talking. He claims this was just phase 1 of a larger operation. What's phase 2? Thompson asked. He doesn't know specifics, Rodriguez replied. Compartmentalized information. But he did give us one crucial detail, a date, 3 months from now. Elon and Thompson exchanged looks. We need to be ready, Elon said. Whatever they were planning today, the next attempt will be more sophisticated, more difficult to detect and stop, which is why I've been authorized to establish a new joint task force, Thompson replied, combining the best minds from government agencies and private sector security experts. She looked directly at Elon. And we want you to lead it. Elon raised an eyebrow. Me, working for the government? With the government, Thompson corrected. As an independent advisor with full access and authority, you'd be able to bring in your own people, establish your own protocols. Elon was quiet for a moment, considering the offer. What had started as a routine meeting had turned into something far more significant, not just stopping a single attack, but potentially changing how the nation approached cybersecurity. 3 conditions, he said finally. Complete transparency. I see everything related to critical infrastructure security. Second, no bureaucratic roadblocks. When we need to move, we move. And third, we completely overhaul the security architecture of every critical system, not just patch the existing vulnerabilities. Thompson smiled slightly. The president anticipated your conditions. He's already approved all 3. Elon extended his hand. Then it looks like I've got a new project. As they shook hands, both knew that the events of the past 48 hours had changed the course of national security. What Elon had noticed when he first walked into Secret Service headquarters, the facade of outdated technology hiding cutting-edge capabilities, had been just the beginning. The real work was about to start.